I will live my life.
I will live my life.
As though generations depend on me.
As though generations depend on me.
And I will teach.
And I will teach.
And encourage.
And encourage.
All of mine.
All of mine.
To do the same.
To do the same.
Silverback.
Silverback.
Do everything you can to make sure that you get to enjoy that good life that every single one of y'all raised your hands and said you want.
The Silverback way. So over the last 10 years, we've developed a methodology and a philosophy and an attitude that combined, and a curriculum that all combined makes what we're going to call the Silverback way. And the Silverback way is really a way of getting young men who didn't have leadership in their life, and because they didn't have leadership, have all kind of crazy ideas about what manhood is. Getting them to one, understand what real manhood is, two, believe that it's possible, and three, desire it. That's kind of the three components of what the Silverback way accomplishes with young men. What I learned a long time ago is that people learn whatever they want to learn. And so the Silverback way is a combination of things. The way we do things, how we do them, the way we walk into a room with young people, the way we treat them, and of course the curriculum. It's a way that gets them to want to do better, believe that they can, and we actually provide them with the information and the tools to accomplish it.
I will live my life. As though generations depend on me.
That's the Silverback way.
So let's talk a little bit about the organizational philosophy. Like how does the Silverback way approach the concept of boy socialization?
So we, unlike a lot of institutional stuff that deals with children, is we pay attention to basically how boys socialize. And that there's a pecking order. There's a pecking order in every group of boys, and there's alpha male ascension, especially around the age that we're working with kids. I don't want to pound my chest because the microphone's there, but every male child born wants to do this about something. And so we understand that, and we also understand if you have a group of boys, you have to deal with the fact that there's a pecking order. And the way that we deal with that is twofold. We acknowledge that it exists. We're very careful about trying to mix age groups. Initially we tried to do 7th and 8th grade at the same time, and just kind of found out that didn't work. Because there are some boys in 7th grade who are larger physically than some of the boys in 8th grade. And so every time we would bring those two groups together, there was this pecking order clash, and trust me, you really can't deal with kids till you get that. That's one of the reasons that we're happy we start in November, because by the time we get to those kids at that school and those classroom setups, the kids have kind of figured that out already. And so we don't spend a lot of time working with that. So we pay attention to that, and we're not mad at them for it. One of the things, though, is that we take advantage of it. In that pecking order system rises up some leaders. Now, what's funny is they may not be the leaders that school administrators would desire. They're usually kids that are kind of tough. They're self-directed, and lots of times that's the kids that the schools don't like. But we engage those kids. We engage the natural leadership. We acknowledge it. We let these little brothers know that we know that they have some leadership position in their group. And we get them on board. We say, listen, we need your help. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. And can we count on you to help us do this? And so we, rather than fight male socialization, we actually find ways to engage it and purpose it. The other thing is we flip peer pressure. So we engage the whole group of boys rather than trying to engage one or two boys out of that group. And then our philosophy basically is, if any boy who's not in the group, we'll make it his business to disrupt the group. To disrupt the group, to say bad things about it, to put it down. And so we just say, give us all or none. That's our philosophy with the schools. You cannot pick certain boys to be in or out of the Silverback Society. It's all or none. And sometimes we have kids who may not think that they want to participate, and we talk to them and just ask them, hang in there with us for a minute. And most of the time they come around. Almost all the time they come around, with very few exceptions.
All right. So as you mentioned, having to work outreach to the toughest students, and engaging them to become leaders and helping to move the work forward. So what do you do when you encounter some maladaptive behavior as opportunity to reach out to a young brother?
We don't call little boys out in front of their peers. That's the main thing, because doing so makes him vulnerable. And what he'll do is, he's not listening. What he's concerned about is he going to appear weak or submissive to the rest of the fellas in his group, and he can't afford to do that. If he does that, somebody thinks they can move up in the pecking order. So we don't do that. What we'll do is we'll take a kid, pull him to the side, and have a conversation. What we found out is just asking kids questions. I kind of make it personal sometimes. I'll say, so did I do you something today? Did I mistreat you? Did I disrespect you? And then you give a kid pause. It's like, no. And then I said, so why you dealing with us like this? And it's always something else. One of the things that we understand is whenever a kid is being difficult, there's an adult reason for it. There's an adult reason for it. And so, we have a conversation. We actually have a philosophy for getting cussed out. Because sometimes these little boys be angry, man. They're angry, and some of them have every right to be angry. And so we acknowledge that. So our philosophy is, if a kid's that angry and he's cussing people out, we'll try and get him to cuss us out rather than a teacher or something, because he'll get in trouble. So we listen for a grievance. Then the next thing you know, you wait until the kid calms down, and then you ask how you can help. Say, you acknowledge his right to be angry. Say, listen, you're upset about something. Hope it's not me, hope I didn't do anything to upset you, but it's obvious that you're upset about something. So what can I do to help? That's an adult doing what our child needs. We don't bring our ego into the situation with these kids. Our full-grown ego got no place And one of the things that we hope to do in the future is help educators adopt that similar thing. The biggest complaint that these boys have is that nobody listens. That nobody listens. And so we listen a lot.
So, as we think about acknowledging these young brothers and figuring out how we can help and listening to their needs, talk to me a little bit about the Silverbacks' commitment to keeping promises.
Oh man, our word is our bond. One of the things, we make a commitment that we're going to show up. So we keep our promises. We make a commitment that we're going to show up, and we show up. And because we're dealing with kids who quite often have had men in their lives, a series of men in their lives, who it starts off nice, but at the end the kids feel abandoned. And some of them have relationships with fathers who don't or can't keep their promises, who make promises and don't keep them. They've been told they're getting a bicycle, the bicycle doesn't show up. They be told they're gonna go on a little trip, the trip doesn't happen. So when we make promises and we keep those promises, we showing boys what real manhood is about. Because manhood's about what you can do for people. And you know, one of the 7 Silverback ways is that you only give your word when you know you can keep it. So when we tell these kids we're gonna take them to Dooky's Chase restaurant, the money's already in the bank, the reservation's already made. So keeping our word is key, and it makes the kids accountable. It makes the kids accountable because they gave us their word. They signed a pledge. They signed a pledge. They said they were willing to follow these 7 Silverback ways. And so there's accountability in that relationship. So as long as we're consistent and we keep our promises, we have some leverage to demand the same from the little boys.
That's a great transition, actually. So in the line of thinking about commitment to showing up and accountability, that goes for the young brothers as well as the mentors on the team. So talk to me a little bit about the idea of call if you can't show up.
Oh, we have a culture. Lots of people wonder how, up until we got a deputy director, Greg, how we managed to operate the Silverback Society, 100 and something volunteers at 17, at one point 19 schools, and how did we manage speakers, scheduling speakers? And people say, well, how did you manage to do that? And well, one way is that we have a great volunteer campus liaison, and I gotta acknowledge him, Tamisha St. Julian, who takes care of all the school stuff, relationships with the schools. I don't have to talk to principals and stuff. But the other way is that we have this culture that says that the only time that we need to communicate is when we can't do what we said we were gonna do. So we got 100 and something volunteers. Of those volunteers, there's about, for every school there's a team leader, a lead mentor. And that lead mentor, the culture is if you can't show up, you call your lead mentor. You know, that's it. If you're gonna show up, you don't have to call anybody. And we assume that men are gonna keep their word. And it works. So we able to operate. I'm serious. There are times when I may go 2-3 weeks and not hear anything from anybody. And that's a beautiful thing, and what it means is that we can operate. If we had a system where everybody's got to be calling everybody, that's why our recruitment methodology is more passive than active. We once in a while we'll take an individual that we know will do a good job and recruit that individual. Most of the time, however, we just keep a public presence. You know, we'll do some TV presence. We get on some radio shows, let people know what we're doing. Ask men in community that if they want to make a difference, we we know how to help them do that and make it streamlined. So we get men, the men in the Silverback Society, I don't think we have convinced any of them to do work in community. I think the men in the Silverback Society, if they weren't in the Silverback Society, would be doing work in community someplace else. We just coordinated, created a system where ultimately we can basically teach every little boy that goes to public school if we have our way. And coordinated, and so we coordinate men to make that possible. And where a man can do this work without it disrupting his life. Basically, all he has to do is show up. The curriculum's prepared. He shows up with a team, so when life does happen and he can't make it, there are other men who are going to show up and keep our word. So that's the thing about it. It's call if you can't make it. And what that means is nobody's bogged down with a lot of communications. Now we have powerful communications. We have an online email system. We can send emails to different groups at different times for different reasons with different information.
So with over 150 mentors working at multiple schools, you got liaisons at the schools who are connected to this work. How does the Silverback Society ensure that child safety remains a top priority for the work?
Oh, child safety is built into the way that we operate. We have no one-on-one contact with kids. By our rule is that you are never in a room with a closed door with a kid. There's got to be at least 2 adult sets of eyes in that room. Actually, our preference is if you want to have a one-on-one conversation with a kid, we do it out on the yard in a public space, because you can find a way to talk to a kid, and there's no after-hour or weekend contact with these kids at all. Our philosophy, our rule is it's funny though, because we give the kids our phone number. They get the phone number, they lead mentors or the mentors at their school, they get that phone number, but they don't call it. And the rule is that we have to, that if you get a call from a kid, you have to call me. You have to call the executive director, or now maybe call Greg, the deputy director, so that we can know what that's about. And that a kid reached out to you. The other thing is that we run background checks on our volunteers, on our mentors. And it's a background check that is specifically looking for a violence, assault, or sexual predator type violations. Not all our mentors are not perfect, but none of them have are pedophiles or sexual predators or have hurt anybody physically.
So since you have like relatively limited time, since you only work with the students in the school building, like why is it important for the Silverback Society to provide 100% positive engagement to the young brothers at every opportunity?
Man, these kids been beat down by everybody. They've been beat down, they've been judged. People have low expectations of them. And we just keep it positive. So even if we're correcting kids, and one of the things I'm starting to teach is terms of how we deal with kids and I'm starting to teach parents this, school teachers this, is when you see a kid that's behaving in a way that you think the kid shouldn't do, what you should say to the kid is, I know you can do better. That's a simple thing. I know you can do better, which both tells the kid that what you're doing is not acceptable, but what you're saying to the kid is, I believe in you and I know it's in you to do better than that. That's so you're encouraging and correcting. We don't beat kids down. We don't say you bad. We're not negative at all with these kids. These kids they've been beat down. They've been taught. People have told them about themselves. You know how y'all saw do sometimes, and so we positive. one of the things that one of the most difficult things sometimes with a new mentor is to get the new mentor to understand that, most of them got spanked. Okay, let's be frank. Most of them got spankings when they were kids. And lots of them think that those spankings had something to do with them becoming this wonderful person that they are. And what I get them to understand is, so you survived the spankings. What made you become this wonderful person that you are is that those people who spanked you cared about you, went to work, and so that they could support you. They were there for you. So it wasn't the spanking. What it was is that you were disappointing people that cared about you and took care of you. Because if you reflect, mostly what hurt you when you got those things was the fact that somebody was upset with you enough to do that. And so we don't need to spank the kids. What we need to do is encourage them. What we need to do is tell them they can do better, expect them to do better, expect them to do well. What's funny is when we bring them to Dookie Chase, to me it's always funny. Because when we bring them to Dookie Chase, they're like, this is a new environment for them. And what they'll do is they'll like look at each other and like they have low expectations of one another. But we know better. We bring them to Dookie Chase and they are perfect. We expect them to be. We expect them to be. We greet them like they all right. When we first meet the kids, you all right. I'll laugh at them. A kid who's maybe got a class clown or something like that. I say, you know what, you're gonna grow out of that. You're gonna grow out. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. So these kids need positivity. So it turns out that that's basically what they need. They need somebody to believe in them. They need somebody to constantly remind them that they are somebody, they are special. There's nobody else like them. So we're going to be positive with these kids. We got to be positive with these kids. And the more that they pull back, the more positive we have to be. To me, that's the biggest victories, is when that kid who at the beginning was like, just knew he wasn't going to come along, ends up being like, at the end of the piece, ends up being like one of the main champions of the Silverback Society. And so we win. We win. Some kids takes longer than others, but by the time we get them to Dookie Chase and the end of the year ceremony, we win. And then we win because basically we just wore them down with unconditional love. It's unconditional love. In the work that we do, the only people that can fail is us. The kids not trying to do nothing. They're not trying to, when we met them, they weren't trying to change. So they can't fail. We are the ones who believe that they need to do and be something different. We are the ones who are trying to get that done for them, with them. So it's on us all the time. It's on us all the time.
So for the organization to find victory in helping a young man to move from completely disengaged to completely engaged, that describes a culture, an organizational culture of uplift and support and positive engagement. So you mentioned unconditional love, and that's actually where we're going next. So let's talk about the unconditional embrace that the Silverback places around all of the young brothers who are part of the family.
Yeah. So one of the things that happens with the Silverback Society, and we tell them men this, and I'm glad we doing this recording format so that we will consistently make sure that we tell the men this one thing is that, so when you walk into that room and with them little boys, just open your arms wide, because that's your boys. That's your boys. Yeah, some of them joke, some of them class clowns, some of them think they might be little wannabe gangsters, but that's our boys. And like we tell the boys is, That's the only hope we have. They're all we got. You know, they are the only hope for a better and a brighter future for this city. You know, I tell my friends, you know, friends who, I think it's middle class, professional class, I tell them all the time that our children don't determine the future of the city. Our children are not going to determine whether this city continues to stay where it is or whether it goes through the sky. The kids who are going to make that difference are the ones that have gotten stuck in this cycle where no man to show me what to be, I don't know what to be. I grew up to be a man that can't take care of my kids, and the cycle repeats over and over again. That cycle has to be broken, and the only people that can break that cycle is men who know better. Men who know better. And what's interesting is, when these kids hear the truth, they know it's the truth. They know it's the truth. Because when we meet them, when we meet these kids, we confront them with a truth. We do the talk around, you know, we go around the room, everybody. Let me say, this is how intentional we are. So we go around the room and we introduce ourselves. We don't ask them how old they are, because that's an embarrassment for some kids. We don't ask them what they want to become, because we know what the answers are, and we don't want them to give an answer and then feel like they have invested in that. So what we ask them is what's your name? And what's your favorite subject? That's an oxymoron for some of these kids. But they think. And so what happens, a kid for the first time in his life may hear himself say, my favorite subject is math. He just claimed that. He just claimed that his favorite subject is math. And then after we do the round where they do that stuff, this is scripted. We say, you don't know us. You don't really know us. We don't really know you. We're going to get to know one another. But let me tell you something about us. Let me tell you something about us. When we walk in our house, nobody's confused about who the man is. Because everybody in our house understands that their life is better because we in it. When a real man shows up, life gets better for women and children. The room is bam. And you got kids like, oh. They don't have a man in their life that can claim that space. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with kids that don't have a man in their life that can say that. And then we kind of flip it over for them, and this really, this truth really rings in their head. So if by the time you have women and children who need to be able to depend on you, and you can't do what you need to do for them, you're gonna probably end up beating them. And then what you get is gonna be what y'all call respect on the street, which is nothing but fear. Greg, you been there. They like, wow, we just nailed it. And then the thing that's so beautiful about this experience, and if you're a mentor, you're gonna experience this. Then we go around the room and we ask every boy, what do you want from your people? You want them to fear you, or you want the real love and respect that we get from our people? This is our 10th year. We have never had a boy say he wanted his people to fear him. Never. That's powerful. They all want the respect that we have, and that's how we get to make the deal. Then we pull out the pledge sheet. I mean, this is scripted. It's like a good sales presentation. You don't change it. We've been doing this, I guess, the same exact way for almost 10 years. And it's the only lesson that's scripted. All of the rest of the curriculum is kind of, guys, do it how you do it. But this one's strict because it works. It works. And at the end of that day, we got a kid understanding the difference between real respect and fear, because they're killing themselves on the street for respect. If you ask the kids, it's about respect, because they don't know what respect is. So you got little boys on the street trying to achieve alpha malehood, killing one another because they think it's about respect. Whereas, I ain't looking to kill nobody. When I walk in here, they know who I am. They know who I am because their life is better because I'm in it. That's a whole different thing. We actually had a kid one time, and this was really funny. The kid, like after we went through that discourse, the kid looked up and he said, "So, all I gotta do to be a real man like you is my homework?" I said, "Yeah, little brother, that's all you gotta do. You don't have to hurt nobody. You don't have to be hard. All you gotta do is handle your business for the next few years."
So for a man to see the potential and the greatness in these young brothers, he's already got to have a measure of patience with them. So you talked about the young brother in the class who might be the class clown, and your approach to him is, you're gonna be all right, young brother.
Yeah, you're gonna be all right.
So that means that patience has to be a very important virtue in order to do this silverback work. So can you give me a little bit about that?
Patience is really, really important. I'm not naturally patient. This is like intentional patience. This is like talked myself into patience. We have turned out to be a great mentor. He's a former policeman, and the thing that we do for the men though is we describe the process. We really get their expectations in line with what's going to happen in the process. They know that the first week, everybody's going to be glad to see you. It's going to be kumbaya. Second week, you're going to go back. The kids are, wow, they showed up again. Another nice kumbaya. Third week, they starting to, okay, all right, these guys. Fourth week, it's like, bam. They like, you can't get them to settle down. But we prepare the men for that, see? And we actually talked to, had a psychologist, a good friend, explain what that is. And what it is that little boys who have had these messed up relationships with a series of men, and sometimes they fathers, don't necessarily want to become attached to another black man. There's a piece of them, they're self-conscious. It's not up here. It's kind of down in here. That is afraid to get into to start feeling connected to a black man. And so in week 4 or week 5, you're gonna get that. They're not gonna settle down. They won't hear nothing you got to say. And that's when we pull out patience. Because there have been situations where they wouldn't settle down. What's interesting is they don't do destructive stuff. They're not becoming, quote, that unruly. You just can't get them to settle down. They're teasing and, talking. We just sit down. We just sit down and let them have it. As long as they don't get violent, as long as nobody starts doing anything destructive in the room, we just sit down and let them have that moment. Let their feelings adjust. Because it won't work if we force it. If we force it, all we're going to do is get too loud yell at somebody. We're gonna break the sense of acceptance. So we just let them have it. We have a luxury that I think lots of teachers don't feel like they have. And that luxury is that we only have 6 lessons to get through. And our engagement is at least twice that long. So we have the luxury of being able to pass up a week of teaching. But it's not passing up a week of teaching. It's actually teaching them something about themselves and about us. Because after that day, none of those kids think we're coming back. And when we strut back in there the next week, and we're not mad at them, and we proceed like what happened just happened. As a matter of fact, if I'm in the room, when I come in that next week, I like to mess with them. I say, so how y'all want to handle this week, fellas? See, last week we came in here, y'all didn't let us teach the lesson. So now we're gonna be in the room a whole nother week because we couldn't teach that lesson. We're not gonna finish the 6 lessons at the same time. So we're gonna be stuck in the classroom because after the 6th lesson, we get to go have a little fun sometime. I said, so now we're gonna be stuck in the room another week. So how y'all wanna handle this week? Y'all wanna do the lesson or y'all wanna clown? Self-governance. It always happens. Some kid, it's usually one of those leaders that the rest of the people in the school don't approve of necessarily. It's usually one of them will go around and say, come on, y'all. We gotta get through this. If you want self-governance to happen, the kid has to have the ability to say no. We let them say no last week. And this week gave them a choice. But now we do have the leverage built in where they got to get through the 6 lessons before we have any fun. And so we have leverage after that, because when the speakers come, the speaker gets 20, 25 minutes, and then the kids we get to go have fun with what's left. So when the speakers start, we have that leverage too. But basically, that's patience. Patience. One of my favorite sayings is that water wears away stone. And if you don't believe it, go see the Grand Canyon. All it has to do is keep running. If it keeps moving, it will wear away stone.
So that actually moves us into thinking about consistency, because water wearing away stone.
Oh yeah.
There's a consistent beat of that water on that stone, so that's how it wears away. So, how do you use consistency and patience and all of the other virtues that you described to make sure that you're able to override the little brother's inclination to resist that connection to another black man?
So, one, consistency just works. In other words, you prove that you keeping your word. So we have a closed-end relationship. So when we start the relationship, it's not a closed-end because we want to continue the relationship, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But they know when the program starts, and they know when it stops, and they know we only do it at school, and they know we're going on 2 field trips. So they know the parameters of this relationship. Consistency, we keep coming. We keep coming. And they can't make us not come. I've actually said this to kids on one of those 4th weeks, situations. I've actually said this to kids. I said, you can't stop us from coming. You're not gonna stop us from coming. Nothing you do will stop us from coming. Do you understand what a child, what that little boy is hearing? What he is hearing is you care very much about me because you're willing to put up with me and you're gonna keep coming back. That's how we do. That's about the biggest threat we do is threaten them to keep coming back. You can't stop us from coming. The principal say you ours for this hour every week, we coming.
talk to me a little bit about that though, because something you mentioned earlier about these young people always hearing the negative threats and always getting the negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
So how is it different for the Silverbacks to threaten to, regardless of what you do, I'm going to love you regardless?
It's unconditional love. So it's unconditional love. What we're saying to kids is that you don't have to fit anything for us to care about you and see you as see the greatness in you, see the possibility in you. One of the things I began to understand about children is that when a child feels that you believe in them, when they feel that you accept them, that acceptance, when they believe that you accept them, they will do things to keep that they might not do for themselves. They will, we can get them to try stuff. Every night, you know, when I deal with kids, I say, so, you know, and we probably need to put this into a lesson. I say, so anybody in here ever tried to do their best? How many people in here tell the truth or trying to do their best? Nobody puts their hand up. I said, so let's try it for a week. Between now and our next lesson, let's try it for a week. Try doing your best for a week. Just try it. I'm telling you, you're gonna like it. Try it. Now, I tell you, the kids, not all of them do that, but kids will come back and say, wow, that felt good, man. I say, yeah, you feel good when you go to the hoop. You know, you feel good when you go to the hoop. And that's what it's about. It's about going to the hoop. Your greatness. What I've been doing here lately is when a kid is kind of, it's not bad behavior, but they'll slouch, like in their seats and stuff like that. And what I'll address them with at that point is say, listen, if I was some person who had a major opportunity that I wanted to give a young person, would I give it to you if you're sitting in your chair like that? And you see them, I say, man, you got to practice your greatness. You know, there's greatness in this room, but you got to practice your greatness. Greatness doesn't start one day. You got to start practicing your greatness now. That is so much better than pointing at a kid and say, boy, you better sit up. And then the kid gonna say, why? Why? I just gave him all the reasons in the world. You know, you don't know who you always on stage. We got to put that in the curriculum. You always on stage. Shakespeare said, every man is an actor. You always on stage. People are looking at you, trying to figure out what to do with you, how to treat you. You know, and you cooperating with some people who have an attitude about you. You know, what you got to do is fight that attitude with your greatness. You know, these kids have greatness. I believe every soul born is something special. You know, there's something special in these kids. And sometimes, if you get to know some of them, you find out that they're gifted artists, gifted musicians, write beautiful poetry. You know, some of them haven't had an opportunity to see what their greatness is, because we don't have art, we don't have music in the schools, we didn't turn schools into a testing thing. You know, kids don't get to explore what their greatness is. All they get to do is get fed information and take tests. They don't get to see if they are wonderful in something.
So you were describing the Silverback Society's approach to building social acceptance of achievement for young people.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
You mean how we advocate?
Yeah, because I mean it is typical to expect these young brothers to not be excited about their brother passing a test. Wow, yeah. Or be excited about themselves passing that test. So you're encouraging and supporting these young brothers and trying to create the space for them to find their greatness inside of this small time that we have with them. So how does that work to boosting their social acceptance of
so that, I had mentioned that we flip peer pressure. We flip peer pressure. We literally make it cool to do well in school. We flip it. In other words, the Silverback Society, we all Silverbacks. We all trying to be greatness. We want to support one another in that and becoming great. So the kid that does well in the classroom is no longer seen as a nerd or unhip or uncool. The kids, what's funny is when we go to award ceremonies at the end of the year with the kids, which I don't get to do as much as I used to, the kids who get the academic awards get the same dap and acknowledgement from the other boys as the ones who get the athletic awards. I mean, it's really, the English Achievement Award and the brother walking down the aisle getting his dap. It's it's real, y'all. It's real, and it's like the whole culture at schools changes. The schools where we've been for a while, they have a culture shift, and it's just a calmer, because the little boys know they're gonna be Silverbacks. And they watch the Silverbacks, they watch the big boys be polite. Principal year before last, they took the kids, the 8th grade kids, on a field trip out of town. And so when they went to eat like at the buffet and stuff like that. And the principal said, the boys waited for the girls to go get in line, get their food first. Unprompted, they organized themselves to do it.
You could talk to us a little bit about how important it is to have schools as partners.
Oh man!
To give us the space to have the time to be able to help affect those culture changes in the school building.
So one of the Pastor and I I don't think we were that smart, but we bumped into just a great formula. And a big part of that formula is the way that we do partner with these schools. So we have a youth program that doesn't have to do outreach because we partner with schools. And so the kids end up being a captive audience. The schools invite us in because they need us. And after, our first principal was the one who was brave, because Ms. Johnson, now Mrs. Jelks, invited us in because she had a severe need. She had a police officer on campus. Her boys were so off the chain. And at the end of the year, they were like, the boys were like her boys. But that's why the schools invite us in, because we literally help the campus become a calmer, more productive environment for everybody. Because the big boys at the school kind of run the yard. The big boys at the school kind of run the yard and set the example for the other boys. So the schools are key. So because we operate the schools, we don't need a building. Because we operate with our schools, we don't have to provide transportation. We don't have to do outreach. So that's 3 major expenses that most youth programs would incur that we don't have because we partner with the schools, and we're doing it during school time. So it's really amazing. And then we're using volunteers. Now I'm gonna tell you the truth. Pastor and I did pay a lot of attention to the whole concept of having a program that was inexpensive cash-wise, because what we needed to do is we want to process. I call it process. Yep. We want to process every little boy in the city, or actually in the country, if it's up to me, that goes as he goes through 8th grade at this very special time in a kid's life, to move him from somebody who doesn't know he has to become something, to a kid that feels like he needs to become something, he can become something, and he wants to become something. So we get kids to want to become something, we get them to believe that they can become something, and we show them how. That's what we do. And we do it with a partnership with these schools that's very cost effective. Very cost effective. We don't have to pay for buildings. We don't have to pay for transportation. We don't have to even do outreach, because we do all the boys in 8th grade at that school. So it's powerful because the opportunity, because it's financially so efficient, because we use volunteers, there is an opportunity to scale this up to where we can do all the boys in the city. That's the dream. The dream is that when the kid goes to high school, he meets silverbacks from all over, and that's starting to happen. That's starting to happen. We have our high school chapters that are going up now. So, and we only in 17 schools. New Orleans must have about 36 or 37 elementary schools. We almost halfway there. Well, we're about halfway there. And so I feel like it's a critical mass. But that's the power of the relationship with the schools, is that we get to do this with very little cash involved. We're just paying for field trips, a couple of people who run the program, and book bags, and that's it. That's it. Everything else is volunteer or provided by the schools.
So in wrapping up this conversation about the guiding principles and the philosophy of the work, what would you say is the core piece of the Silverbacks that one makes the work for the young boys, mm-hmm. and makes the work for the men who have the privilege to be a mentor?
Mm-hmm. So human beings are interesting, and so I want you to consider that human beings get to live more than twice as long as it takes for them to reproduce a generation. And I really believe the reason for that is because we have value in all of that time. Men who do this work begin to understand that this is what they were built to do. We are designed to, that's the purpose of life, actually. The purpose of life is life. Is life. It's producing and preparing the next generation. And so when men do this work, they feel good about themselves because they're doing what they were built to do. And I'm gonna tell you something, man, when you look into a kid's eye and he's looking back at you and he's getting what he needs from you, that's what we're here to do. And it's built into us that when that happens, you experience joy, you feel good about yourself, you matter. You matter that much. You matter so much that the good that's gonna come out of this kid for generations and generations and generations wouldn't have happened unless you were there. That's how important you are. And as a man, that feels right. It just feels right. All of the men, so people wonder, we have men who have been doing this work for 7 years. Once you do it, you can't stop. 3 stages of manhood we teach. First stage is you independent of your mama's house and money. The second stage is you reach the point where you can take care of more than just yourself. And most of us are aware of those 2 stages. But then there's this 3rd stage that we didn't know about. And it's when you reach the point where you've done those first 2 and there's still enough of you left where you can take your place as a chief in the village.
I will live my life.
I will live my life.
As though generations depend on me.
As though generations depend on me.
And I will teach.
And I will teach.
And encourage.
And encourage.
All of mine.
All of mine.
To do the same.
To do